What's up, nigga?
Get this
the
shit
fuck
up.
you gonna do, nigga? Yeah, my African brother. Yeah, my African brother. What's up, nigga?
I'm African, but I ain't no brother of yours, son.
You my nigga. Let's go. You my nigga for real.
If someone would have told me a year ago, a year and a half ago, no, a year ago, that the middleweight championship would be being fought between the champion Dricus Du-Plessis and the challenger Isreal Adesanya, I would have said, you're full of shit. I'm sorry. We're allowed, I mean, every once in a while, yeah, we can, a couple
Okay.
of them.
Don't
Yeah.
get carried away.
No, no, I won't get, no, you don't get carried away. But isn't it crazy, like, how much changes in a year in this division? It's wild.
I mean, that's the nature of MMA, right? Because it's such a small sample size, and it just really everything's determined by like these crazy moments. And sometimes guys go on this crazy run, like Dricus went on a crazy run over the last 2 years, and Izzy went on his run, but then as he started to decline, it kind of coincided with the great run that Dricus had. So now we have Dricus as the champion and Izzy as the challenger. Yeah. And it doesn't make sense, but nothing in MMA ever makes sense.
It's true. It's a sport that's played on a razor's edge. And because of that, you're going to have things that are completely unexpected. And in that run that you're talking about, of course, there was the championship reign of Sean Strickland in there as well, which who
would have expected that? Like,
exactly.
Sean, like you have Izzy, who we thought was going to be this great champion that no one was ever going to beat him. And then we have Dricus, who's actually the champion, and then Sean Strickland waiting in the wings, who no one would have even considered to be a contender a couple of years ago. So what a weird time to be alive in the middleweight division.
I love it, though. I love it. I love it when things get a little mixed up and we've got a lot of exciting prospective fights. This fight, though, is really, really fascinating to me. And again, I go back to, if you would have told me about this fight a year and a half ago, I would have gone, well, Isreal Adesanya is going to walk through him, right? Because that was the perception that a lot of people had about Dricus's skill set, that it was going to reach a certain stage and that he would be capped off because of this sort of unusual style that he has on the feet and pretty much everywhere he goes. You know, he's got a bit of a clunkiness to him. However, none of that has panned out that way. And the fact is the man is continuing to deliver time and time again. 7-fight win streak, the longest in the division. And that includes 5 finishes, Dean. So whatever he's doing, I don't care if it's not cute, it's working.
I know, but I still believe
Look on your face right now. You're just...
Well, I still believe in science. You know, there's a certain degree of art in this sport. A lot of it is art. Mm-hmm. And what we've seen in these last couple of years in the middleweight division has just been the artist's interpretation of how sports work. And that's why it's been so unpredictable and spontaneous, because we've watched a bunch of abstract art take place. Dricus Du-Plessis' abstract art, his guerrilla style of abstract art, has won over. Mm-hmm. However, I still believe in science at the end of the day. And in terms of art, no one does art more scientifically beautiful than Isreal Adesanya, mm-hmm. and probably in all the middleweight division easily, and then maybe in the UFC. Arguably.
Is it the superior technique that you believe in? Is it the fight IQ that you believe in? Is it what is making you lean so heavily in Izzy's favor? Because I'll just come out and say it. If you force me to pick, I'm also going to pick Izzy. But to me, I can make a I was literally going Dricus earlier today. I can make a very strong case for Dricus Du-Plessis based on the Robert Whittaker fight, based on how Izzy lost to Sean Strickland and to Jan Blachowicz. There is a case on paper that's pretty easy to make that, like, man, maybe he is a tough matchup for Isreal Adesanya.
Well, so here's my thing, and I have to be very clear about this, Laura, because I can argue this point all day long, because we tend to put the idea of technique in a box. Oh, this guy's a technician.
Mhm.
So if his technique doesn't work, technique doesn't work because we tend to generalize and overgeneralize the idea of being a technician. So when we look at a guy like Izzy, we go, oh, he's a technician. And it didn't work against a certain fighter. Or we say Robert Whitaker uses technique too, and it didn't work against Dricus. So Izzy's technique's not going to work against him. But that's not the way technique works.
Yeah.
And you know this. Technique doesn't work that way. It's not just because somebody uses technique that they're always technical and everything they do is technical and everybody's technique is equal. When I look at Isreal Adesanya, the way his style of technique matches up with the way Dricus matches up with other guys, even the way Dricus matched up with Robert Whitaker, there were moments in that fight where Robert Whitaker was piecing him up.
Mm-hmm.
And if I look at the way Izzy pieces people up, he's a lot more effective with one punch than Robert Whitaker is.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like Dricus is too easy to be hit. And when you allow a guy who is a sniper like Izzy, who's a technical sniper like Izzy, and you allow him the opportunity to hit you as much as Robert Whitaker allowed him to hit him, as much as Derek Brunson was able to hit Dricus. Like a lot of guys were able to hit him, but he was just so tough about taking it. If you allow Izzy to hit you that many times, he's putting you out.
Yeah.
I just think that Dricus is too easy to be hit for a technician and a sniper like Izzy. And so I don't want to overgeneralize the idea of technique is not going to work against him because he's so unorthodox.
Yeah. The thing that caused me to move my needle in the direction of Adesanya was the mental side of things. And I remember being in the back for the second Pereira fight. After losing to Pereira, after being knocked out and coming back, and the side of him that was so visible, the energy that was emanating off of him after a loss was unlike anything I've ever seen before. And to me, the version of Isreal Adesanya that lost to Sean Strickland, which I know that there has to be a part of him that is annoyed by the fact that it was Sean and not someone deemed to be. I think we all know how good Sean is, but a lot of people still don't hold Sean as a, Mount Rushmore level middleweight like they do Isreal Adesanya. If it had been a foe that he felt equal to, maybe, Pereira, good example, it probably would have felt different. But I think that the fact that it was Sean and the fact that it was not even remotely questionable, it wasn't like he got caught. He got beat. And for him to go away and to take the time and to take the mental space to really have those inward discussions that are so difficult to have. And that's one thing that has always stuck out to me about him is I think he is very honest with himself. I think a big part of that is the way that Eugene Behrman has coached him over the years and the influence that he has on him. But that is a camp where you're not allowed to hide behind your ego, in my opinion.
Right.
That's the sense I get from those guys. So I can only imagine in the time that he's been away, the mental work's been done, the physical work's been done. From everything I've seen, he's made a concerted effort to put on size and strength and bring a little bit more physicality to his fighting style. And I just think the version of Isreal Adesanya that you get coming off of a loss, it's a dangerous man. Very, very dangerous man.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like that too, like all that coupled with the points that I made earlier. Those are just the general points that were going to happen anyway. Mm-hmm. But coming off of a loss and now with a bit of a chip on his shoulder, we've seen how he performs when he's got a chip on his shoulder. Now, when he was fighting Sean Strickland, that was no real chip on his shoulder. He was like a minus 1,000 favorite, and he had been so active in fights. And I think that hurt him actually being that active in fights, because when you got a guy who is as sharp and as technical as he is, and he's that active in fights, some of that technique kind of slips because you're just like, you're showing up to camp, you're grinding, you're doing a bunch of work. And
There's
and
no
you're
fear.
fighting off.
There's no fear.
Right. Yeah. And you're not really working on like saying, all right, I got to get better at these
Yeah.
things. So the fact that he lost and he took this time off and for whatever reason he lost to Sean Strickland, I'm sure that there was a reason he will not tell anybody about that. He's probably that prideful that he's just like, no, I'm going to accept the loss. I'm going to get it back, but I'm going to accept the loss. And I think that he went back to camp, took some time off, took some time to himself, went back to camp and just really got sharp.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we are going to see the best version of Izzy that we've ever seen. We're going to see a man who had 2 years to prepare, 2 years to really show up. And if we get that version, I kind of feel bad for Dricus because I don't think Dricus even knows. Like, you don't know what you don't know. I don't think Dricus realizes what's coming, what's potentially headed his way.
Let's talk a bit about Dricus though, because I think maybe I'm a little bit higher on him than you are, but he got here for a reason, Dean. And I mean, finished 19 of 21 wins. He's got the highest significant strike output in the history of the division, even higher than Sean Strickland's, which is crazy. He's got incredibly high accuracy. In fact, you know what? I feel like I'm segueing myself. I should just probably head up, pop on over to the stats. Doesn't this feel like a right time?
Pop over to the stats.
Let's pop over to some stats here. So we've got Dricus Du-Plessis at 7-0 in the UFC. Isreal Adesanya 13-3. 76-inch reach for Dricus, 80 for Isreal Adesanya. 6'1" versus 6'4". Both switch stances. 30 years old for Dricus, 35 for Izzy. This is where it gets interesting to me. So Dricus has a 50.1% striking accuracy, which is well above the average. And statistically speaking, it is actually a click or two higher than Izzy's. Izzy's sitting at 48.1%. Strikes landed per minute, 6.49 for Dricus, 3.93 for Izzy. So significantly more volume. He being Dricus, averages 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. Obviously, Izzy doesn't do much grappling, so his number's quite low. But Izzy's takedown defense number is incredibly high at 77.9%. Izzy also has the most knockdowns in the history of the division. He's actually tied with Anderson Silva at 13, so he's tied for the most knockdowns in the history of the division. And I thought this was pretty interesting too. If you go down and look at where they target their striking, Dricus a little bit more of a headhunter, but I say that loosely because he's actually pretty well diverse. 64.6% to the head, 16% to the body, 19.4% to the leg. So he kicks fairly often. Izzy's I thought was really interesting. 31.6% of his strikes are kicks. I mean, he has a very kick-heavy attack. 48% to the head and 20.4% to the body for Izzy. So I guess the one that really surprised me was the striking accuracy is technically slightly higher for Dricus Du-Plessis. Now, obviously, a smaller sample size. Izzy's been in the UFC much longer. He's had different types of fights that can sway things. But some impressive numbers, Dean.
They are. But I don't think it tells the story. I don't think the numbers really fully tell the story. And I know I sound like I'm hard on Dricus, but like a week ago, I actually picked Dricus to win until I started studying him, until I really took a deep dive into his style. And I said, there is a world in which I think Dricus can win this fight, but it can't be what he's done to beat other guys. It can't be the style that he used in order to beat Robert Whittaker or the style that he used fully to beat Sean Strickland. He's got to do something a little bit different.
What's that?
And I think it has to be more wrestling based than striking based, in which he was able to beat Robert Whittaker and Sean Strickland. Essentially, I think maybe it was the wrestling that beat Sean Strickland, the wrestling attacks that beat Sean Strickland on the points. But it has to be something more than what he was doing in terms of striking. Like, I don't think he can be able to strike the way he did against Sean Strickland and Robert Whittaker and beat Izzy.
Yeah.
And that's my point.
You don't buy the volume idea. In other words,
I'm not buying.
Sean used the volume, Sean used the pressure. That's the template, and you're not buying it.
I am not buying it. I am not. He's just too easy to hit. I am not buying it. He has to have a stronger wrestling attack if he wants to win this fight.
Mhm.
I am not buying the fact that, okay, yeah, he knocked out Robert Whitaker with a jab. I ain't seeing that. That's not going to happen to Izzy. I don't see that at all.
But the grappling, do you think that he can be successful in the grappling, or do
I
you
do.
feel
I
like
do. I think he's a rather underrated grappler.
I agree?
I think he's an underrated grappler. I think that if he goes out there and fights a smart fight in which he uses a grappling heavy attack, he could win. He might even be able to submit Izzy.
Hmm.
He might even be able to submit Izzy. I'm not sure what his game plan is, but if his game plan is to say, okay, I hung with Sean Strickland on the feet, I knocked out Robert Whitaker with a jab, I'm going to stand with this man. It's not happening.
Yeah. The one, when I was studying and the moment where I was like, oh man, this really could get interesting was in the grappling for Dricus. And the thing specifically about the way that he grapples is the fact that he's really good off the fence, but he's also very good in the open mat. Very, very good. And
Mhm.
not a ton of guys are shooting at distance at this level and having the success that he is. The speed with which, and listen, it's not always pretty because he'll club his way into a level change. I think I saw him use a headlock, which is our dear friend Dominic Cruz always makes fun of the female fighters for doing that, but it worked.
Against
And
Robert
the
Whitaker,
man
against
made
Robert
a
Whitaker of all
headlock
people.
takedown work at the highest level in the UFC. It was not cute, but he got him down, Dean.
I
It was
know.
against Robert, I think, who's a good
It was it
wrestler.
was it was Robert Whitaker because me and RJ Clifford make fun of Robert Whitaker all the time for that. We're always like, how did that happen against Robert Whitaker? Like arguably one of the best top 5 middleweights of all time gets
Because
headlocked.
no one does it.
Right.
Because no one does it. And I think that that's where a little bit of the efficacy of Dricus's style, that's how I think he's gotten here, is doing things in a way that makes sense to him and in a way that makes sense to his physicality and his athleticism.
Well, that's important, Laura. And I'll tell you why, because people always ask me what is the common denominator of all the champions I've ever been around. And I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. It's the way they personalize fighting. And that's one thing that you can tell Dricus has done. He's personalized fighting because you don't get away with headlocking top middleweights unless you personalize it and are comfortable with that personalization of such a simplistic technique, right? So he's personalized the way he fights, and I can appreciate that, and I love
Yeah.
that. But I'm just not sure. And that again, like something like that will probably work against Izzy. That's probably going to work against Izzy. But the way he strikes is not going to work against a sharpshooter like Izzy. I will never believe that.
So what's your
No,
prediction? What's your prediction for the fight?
honestly, I'm gonna make a very bold prediction.
Okay.
I'm predicting a knockout from Izzy within 2 rounds.
Wow. You see a head kick or you see
I see
a
a,
hook?
a performance that looks almost similar to Paulo Costa.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see him getting I see Whitaker. Oh, not Whitaker. I see Dricus getting pieced up and then him shooting desperate takedowns when it's too late. When he realizes that it was too late, that he should have been shooting takedowns earlier. Him getting pieced up, shooting desperate takedowns, and then getting stopped.
Listen, don't ever say Dean Thomas does not come with the hot takes. Don't ever say Dean Thomas is a man who sits on a fence. This man has told you what he believes. He has put it out there into the universe, and we will
I
know
put it out there.
we will know in a few days whether he is dead right or dead ass wrong.
And God knows I've been dead wrong before, but I will always make my strong take.
Well,
I am
and you
not
make an intelligent take. It's not like you're
right.
just sticking your finger in the wind. I agree with a lot of what you said for
I
sure.
am not going to Alan Joe Ban this thing.
What's
I'm
that?
going to Alan Joe Ban always he likes because everybody's his friend, so he likes to go, well,
Oh, that's me. That's
well, you
that's
do that
always
too.
me.
Well,
I do
most
that
of
too.
you guys do that. Most of you guys do that, but I don't care no more. I got enough friends.
Yeah.
I need some enemies.
Yeah.
So I want to make some enemies in the fight community. And I'm telling you right now, I think Isreal Adesanya is going to knock out Dricus Du-Plessis within 2 rounds.
Ladies and gentlemen, this man was calling out John, not calling out to fight John Jones, but calling John Jones out on his stuff. Last time I was on the desk with him, he looked the camera dead, dead center and said, "John Jones, you are ducking Tom Aspinall."
I said that.
He
I'm
said
still
it.
saying that. In fact, I'm double down. I'll double down on that because John Jones recently was like, "Yo, I'm going to retire." I am double downing. Is that a word? Double
You made
downing?
it one. Keep
Yeah, I
going.
made it
Yeah.
one. Yeah, I'm going to double down on that and say that yes, John Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall. He does not want to fight Tom Aspinall. He's ducking him.
And that is why you got nominated for Analyst of the Year, right there, right there.
Yeah.
And we're
Even
happy.
though I make up my own words.
We're happy to have you. Listen, we're going to go ahead and jump right into a co-main event breakdown here real quick while we got you, Dean. Man, what a fun fight in the flyweight division. Kai Kara-France taking on Steve Erceg. I wish this was 5 rounds because this is going to be a very fun fight. Aussie versus Aussie. We haven't seen Kai Kara-France in a little over a year. Had some health issues, was supposed to fight, I believe it was Manel Kopp, but had to pull out because of a concussion issue. Thoughts on this fight? Should be a really fun one.
It should be a fun one. And this is another fight where and I hate to sound like, a negative Nancy towards these guys because it's not like I don't like these guys. Like I love watching Kai France fight. Like he's so adorable. He makes that little face like the little man. He looks like you when you were about to fight, just like man, and he's adorable. But I just don't think he does that well against a guy like Steve Erceg. I think Steve Erceg is too well rounded, too sharp, too good in certain spots. And I think he's going to take advantage of the inefficiencies of Kai France and actually the layoff of Kai France. Now, while I thought the layoff was good for Izzy, I don't think the layoff is good for a guy like Kai France. So I think that Steve Erceg, after putting up the performance that he did against Pantoja and seeing that level and knowing the mistakes that he made, I thought he was the more well-rounded fighter. I think that he's just going to come back better and realize that he is championship level. And I think he's going to put it on Kai France.
How crazy is it that Steve Erceg has only been in the UFC since June of 2023?
I mean, he's a complete nerd.
I love him. He's one of my favorites.
That's right. And this is what I'm saying. I'm making another bold claim here. And the world is starting to realize it's fighting is for nerd. Fighting is a nerd game. It's it is I think it's the best team right now in MMA. The Fighting Nerds.
Yeah, you're
They're
right.
undefeated in the UFC.
Push those glasses up.
Yeah, and we're starting to realize it now. Like we've realized it in the world of jiu-jitsu that it's a smart man's game.
Yeah.
We've realized that, and I think that now the trend is going to start to shift towards more intelligent minds in fighting. And Steve Erceg is a complete nerd. He looks the part and he fights the part. And I'll say that with all respect because he's such a great fighter.
Yeah. It's interesting what you said about jujitsu because I feel like that is 100% true. I mean, jujitsu, the best jujitsu guys are so incredibly nerdy, so incredibly smart. They're chess players. They're human chess players and may or may not be varying levels on the spectrum. But
that's what I'm saying. So that's what we try to do. And that's what all the bonehead meatheads of jiu-jitsu and the grappling world try to do, is try to kind of degrade the nerdism of these guys and say, oh, they're a bit on the spectrum. They're just nerds. At the end of the day, who cares if they're on the spectrum? They are nerds.
They're winning.
And they're winning. And they found a way to break down how to tie people up.
Yeah.
And it's happened, and it's going to happen in fighting. The trend is starting to change. And guys like Steve Erceg are not going to be the exception to the rule. They are going to be the standard soon. You're going to just see nerdy guys that just start understanding how to use leverage and how to punch people with, proper technique and knock people out by hitting them with the big part of their fist.
How impressed were you with that Pantoja performance? Because I think there's a world in which he makes one slightly different decision and he could be champion right now. I mean,
100, and that's
which is not a knock on him. It is me being like blown away, impressed by this guy waltzing right in. I mean, he went from fighting, I'm not gonna remember who he fought, but he was fighting guys that I don't remember the name of, and then literally a month later, fighting Pantoja. He fought Matt Schnell in March. He fought Pantoja in May.
right. Well, and you just said it, and I couldn't have put it better. You said one decision away. And this is something that I've been stressing to all my guys recently. Fighting is a series of decisions that you make, and that's all. And if the smarter you are, the better the decisions you can make. And if the better your options are, the better decisions you can make. And Steve Erceg was one decision away in that 5th round of making a good decision and being the world champ.
Yep.
Now he knows. Now he knows what the better decision would have been. To me, he's still the best flyweight in the world. Now, obviously, he doesn't hold the belt, but in terms of his skill set, he's the best flyweight in the world. I think he proves it against Kai France, barring any like weird getting clipped or anything like that. But if he's able to show his stuff, he's going to prove he's the best flyweight in the world.
What do you think the fight's going to look like? Just him dating from bell to bell? I mean, he's also 4 inches taller, but does not have a reach advantage, interestingly enough.
I think he submits Kai France because he's the more well-rounded. I think he's better everywhere, but he realizes his least path of resistance to victory is to get Kai France on the ground.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to piece him up on the feet to where Kai France starts making bad mistakes in terms of striking, then gets taken down, and then eventually submitted.
Damn.
Oh, wow. I just called this out like crazy, right?
Yeah.
But this is what's going to happen. I'm sorry. Call me Nostradamus.
Nostradamus. We need to get you a little graphic.
Yeah.
Like a little crystal ball. Nostradamus.
I use my head as the
Your
crystal
hat.
ball. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know what? Honestly, we should probably start keeping track of our picks. I've never done that.
No. Let's not do that.
No. Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
I think
I don't want to be embarrassed.
I think you make I certainly think you make a very intelligent case on both of these fights, and I'm not going to argue with you in either case. I'm just excited. I'm excited for this middleweight fight in particular. The bad blood between Isreal Adesanya and Dricus Du-Plessis. All of the buildup for that fight is fascinating to me. I'm interested to see who wins the presser, the fight before the fight, of course. And then this flyweight matchup is an incredible one, and I think we're going to see a potential #1 contender emerge from this one. So should be fantastic.
Can I make one more point though? And this is
Please.
about the UFC in general. And that's just that if you want to fight in the UFC, be careful of fighting for the UFC in your hometown. They don't do you no favors. And I say this because Dan Hooker got the worst possible matchup that he could possibly have in the lightweight division by fighting Mateus Gamrot.
Yeah.
Like Dan Hooker's not a good takedown defense guy, and he's fighting probably the best transitional grappler in the lightweight division. So
Dan Hooker's a gamer, though. I will say that
he's a gamer, man, and I'm not fully counting him out, especially the new Dan Hooker, this one that's going through a midlife crisis at 28
with all the tattoos.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the UFC does not give you any favors or any handouts when they want you to fight at home. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
They don't look out for you when you're fighting at home. So poor Dan Hooker.
It's going to be an incredible card, top to bottom. I am so excited to see it. I'm excited to be able to watch it from the comfort of my home. I have to admit that. I'm not missing the 30-hour journey to Perth. I'll pass on that one. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Good
Dean,
on that.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate your insights as always. And we appreciate you guys being here, watching these videos. Of course, there are always more you can check out. We've got some great demonstrations on here, some great breakdowns of past and, of course, future pay-per-views coming up. Appreciate you, and we'll see you there.